be in the video, then turn it off now. Cool. So your roles and responsibilities. So each of your roles have got obviously definitions and your clear objectives or tasks that are attached to them, like treasurer, obviously with finance stuff, or social media officer, obviously social media. But we just advise you to kind of meet up now and start, I'm sure you already have been anyway, but just to meet up now and have your initial discussions about what your roles all entail so that you guys start off on the right feet and you know exactly what you're doing from the get-go. We often have a lot of complications within the first few months with people not kind of really understanding their roles, or the issues boil down basically to people not understanding what their roles were and people haven't defined them as a team. So communication is key. So this happens again a lot, and where we get issues where people aren't fulfilling their roles, and there becomes conflicts arise from that. But it doesn't necessarily mean that someone's doing a bad job. It means that there could be something in their life which is giving them some struggles at the time, and they just might need a little bit of support. As I've put it in bold there, the key is in the team part. You are a team, so just check in with each other, make sure that you all know what you're doing, and don't be afraid to ask for people for support, because everyone needs it from time to time. One of the reoccurring things you'll do as an exec team is hold meetings, or at least it definitely should be something that you're doing reoccurring. We would say weekly is the best preference. But if you can't do weekly, then make sure you're having bi-weekly meetings. This just helps you to keep on track of all of your actions that you've got, your targets, and your objectives, that you have set. The secretary will take notes, which I'm sure you all know that's called minuting, keeping minutes. And they should be distributed so that each exec member knows exactly what you're doing and what actions come from meetings, and what you need to be doing in the coming weeks after each meeting that you have, so that everything that you have planned for your club or your society gets done. Put a little image there. So we work on smart targets a lot within departments within the SU. So just basically create smart targets for yourself, and especially at the moment that's really important with all the different situations that keep changing all the time with COVID. I know it's very difficult to kind of create smart targets essentially, but having those at the moment will probably help in some aspects. So especially in terms of the attainable part of the smart targets, hosting a 5,000 strong person attendance event on campus right now probably isn't going to be attainable right now, as the university would put in some restrictions on that, we'd imagine. So just that kind of train of thought anyway. So yeah, it's your responsibility to work together and work well to deliver an amazing society or club for your members, but tensions do rise. So we have a few tips for you just to help you through those initial phases, as there is likely to be some form of tension that arises in the first few months of being an exec team. That's just natural. So the first thing obviously is just to talk through face to face what the issue is. Obviously that's probably going to be Zoom, as much as we're all getting really tired of it. But especially when you message over WhatsApp or over Facebook, messages can just get misconstrued. And the best thing sometimes to do is just talk it out face to face, so that there is no miscommunication. If the conflict isn't between all exec members, which, I mean, something would have to go drastically wrong for everyone to be falling out with everyone. So this is usually the case. It's normally between like two people, maybe. Ask someone who is not involved in the conflict to mediate a meeting. This means that you basically got an impartial member that is there, that can see both points of view and help to find a good solution. Another one, use votes to decide issues. So when I was an exec member for the Theatre Arts Society, we often used votes, and that was to do with things like, I'll give an example there, choosing which show that you're next going to produce. Yeah, it might mean that people aren't happy and that their option didn't get picked, but it's a clear-cut way of sorting issues, and it's a really simple way just to kind of go, we've got our answer, so we'll roll with that now. But yeah, make sure that you involve your members in votes. That should be something that you're definitely doing. Using your members to decide certain things. If a conflict is arising from an issue that it's like you're trying to decide on which event to put on, make sure that you're always using your members, as they should be the starting point to make those decisions. If those things don't work, you can contact us, and we can then act as the impartial party. Obviously, we hope it can be sorted out before we get to that point with you. But yeah, we can help for those situations. The last point that we have, and this has never been used, so we really hope that continues, but we do have a system called the panel of peers. So it's basically a little bit like jury duty that we have in the UK. I'm not quite sure how jury systems work in other countries, but essentially we take a random sample of club and society exec members that will be impartial to whatever situation is going on. And the conflicts, both sides of the conflict would present their idea and present their point of view, and basically whatever verdict the jury comes to would be the final thing. Obviously, that's we don't want to get to that point. It seems like a lot of steps to get past, so hopefully nothing will ever get there. However, as I said at the bottom, some cases where conflicts have arisen are a little bit more serious, and you might not want to kind of speak to someone face to face. It might be that something serious has happened, and you know, maybe speaking to someone gives you sort of anxiety, or it might make you feel uncomfortable. So if there is ever a situation like that, please come straight to us. It might be something that we can deal with, or it might be something that we point into the direction of student support or SU advice or whatever it is. Yeah, so please don't ever put yourself in a situation where you're going to feel uncomfortable or sort of at risk of something. So finances is the next sort of big thing that you'll have to deal with. That will be for the president and treasurer. So your finances are made up of existing funds, so anything that you've got left over from this year, your membership funds, and anything that you raise during your time as an exec member, as well as university allocated funds, and that's just for clubs specifically. So the finances, as I said, will be handled by primarily by the president and treasurer. Other people might step in where needed. So someone might become the acting treasurer for 2 weeks whilst someone is, I mean, a bit morbid, but the first thing I thought was in hospital. I don't know. Let's hope that doesn't happen. But in that instance, that the secretary might step in to be the treasurer for 2 weeks. Again, it's another member-directed thing. So although your finances, they're managed by the president and the treasurer, it needs to be heavily directed by your members. Your members is what you do your society or your club for. So make sure that everything you do spend on goes through your members. Obviously, there'll be certain little bits. So if you're buying items for your stall at Freshers Fair, we're not expecting you to ask whether your members are happy for this cloth to be bought for your table. That's fine. But if you're putting on a big event, make sure that your members are happy with you spending £500 on a certain band or whatever. Bring a poll in to decide what band you want to hire, or that kind of thing, basically. And primarily, yeah, as the treasurer especially, you're in a position to make sure that your society or club does not overspend or commit to payments that you cannot afford. So you have to be really, really careful with what you're spending and making sure that when you're planning things, you're planning to make enough. You should really plan on what you've got. You might envisage putting on an event where your tickets make you a certain amount of profit, but you need to really be planning based on what money that you have available at the time. We don't have a budget to sort of bail you out. So if you overspend, we will be making sure that fundraisers are done and things like that are done so that you get back into a positive number on your budget. So yeah, please make sure that you are always keeping track on what you spend. A way to keep track on that will be your weekly finance reports. So you'll get these on a Sunday night or a Monday morning, kind of somewhere around that time. And you should, use that as your guide for spending, basically. And your members can ask to view this. So basically, I'll go through them in the next few slides, but they're a breakdown of what your spending has been, what you spent on things, money that you've got in, and how much money you've still got. And your members, like I said, they can see this at any point. So make sure that you're not spending your money on Domino's pizza just for the exec, because your members can see this, and then basically will put a strike against your name or whatever the systems that you're going to have in place as your society, to make sure that if they're not happy with things, they can voice their concerns. So yeah, should be heavily directed by your members. You're generally in charge of what your society or your club does, but allow it to be directed by your members. Any income that has been made for the benefit or the profit of your society or your club. Sorry, I sometimes still miss out the word club. Please forgive me for that, because I started off in society, so please forgive me for that. But yeah, anything that's for a benefit or a profit will be subject to the 20% VAT. So make sure that you factor that into your decision making. So if you're selling cakes so that you can raise money to buy a new camera, you know, for your society, that would be subject to VAT. But if you raise the money, if the money that you raise from that cake sale is going to Samaritans, if you're making it for a charity payment, that won't be subject to VAT. So it's a bit confusing because the SU is a charity, so you'd think that we wouldn't have to pay VAT on certain things, but there's layers to it. So essentially, if you're making the payment, if you're raising money to make a payment to another charity, there'll be no VAT. But if you're raising the money for your own society or club benefit, there will be VAT. So onto the weekly finance report. So this might be something, like I said, this presentation will be available to view at a later time. So you might want to just download this when it's available and have a bit of another look through, because it does look like a little bit of a mess on the screen. I do appreciate that. But the first bit is, so it's for general income. So that's anything that you pay in, like cash wise, if you raised it in the squares or something, or if you've sold like tickets online through the Essex Student through your website, then that will show up in that top section there under general income. The next bit, society memberships, or if you're a club, it will say club memberships. This was from the Writing Society, so just as an example. Pretty self-explanatory. The reason why there's different amounts is because the web sales are processed at the end of each month. So you can see there, like in May, they only sold one and their memberships are £2.50. So that's why it's only £2.50. But in April, they sold 4, or however much it was for VAT, sorry, because that should be VAT deductible as well. But yeah, so whenever you're doing your spending, make sure that you factor in that any web sales you'll get will be processed at the end of the month. The next bit is, again, club society balance carried forward. So anything that you've got left in your funds this year will carry over and will be available basically in that bit. And then the last bit is anything that you've spent. So there you can see that they have like made a donation to charity, which I know it's again it's a bit confusing. Not sorry, no, ignore me. I'm just going back to a previous point. But there they've made a payment to charity. So that money is there on there under the expenses, and also another thing for £50. Yeah, so the maths, like I said, they all do add up. So like I said, go back and have a look over this again, because it might make a little bit more sense if you sort of have a little bit more time reading through it. Clubs does look a little bit different. So again, the first bit, so where it says number 1, any money in your non-budgeted funds that was left in the previous year, like societies, it carries over. And then number 2, again, non-budget. So any money that is currently raised in the current academic year will be in that second section there. Again, things like ticket sales or money that you pay in from fundraisers. But then number 3, in your budgeted funds, you have money that is allocated from the university, and that is to do with things that you should be making the budget plan with in due course, or if you have already. I can't exactly remember. That's probably something that is done with Dom, but will be done more with us as well in the next few months. But that'll be to be spent on things like club equipment. So I've just got the chat in there. The society membership costs, they will be subject to VAT. That will be something that we go through and check again. We do a yearly thing where we update prices and make sure that we have the VAT applied and whatnot. But yeah, so as I was saying, number 3 for clubs is the budgeted funds. So anything that has been allocated by the university to spend on things like, say, like kit or equipment, things like that, basically. So you'll start to receive these weekly finance reports as soon as the SU's finance department has updated our system. Really annoyingly, it doesn't automatically do it. It needs to be a manual process that is updated. And then we have to then input every president and treasurer's email manually into the system. So it does take a little bit of time, and we'll start doing this basically as soon as possible as we can. But like I said, a lot of staff are on holiday or whatnot at the moment, and the systems do refresh normally in August, so we'll be doing that as soon as we can. I've already mentioned it, web sales processed at the end of the month, so bear that in mind. You'll only be able to access the money once it appears on your weekly finance report. So even if you know that you've got £100 coming in after VAT, we won't be able to authorise that until it is available on the weekly finance report, which links to the certain finance systems that we also use that we go off as well. But if you do want to know your balance earlier, because if we can't update those weekly finance report as early as the 1st of August when you officially become an exec member, just email us and we can let you know, or we should be able to let you know anyway. But yeah, so I've put on the bottom of there, for more finance information, you can just, once you've downloaded that, this presentation, you can click that link, or you can copy the link and put it into your browser, and it will take you to last year's finance training. I've just put a little caveat on there that things are, little things are likely to change. There's probably not going to be anything huge that will change, but little things are likely to change. So just use that kind of as a rough guide to understand a few more little bits and pieces. Yeah, so you can have a look through that. But we will be running another finance training session that goes more into depth about all the things involved with finance in September. On to welfare. So it's important to remember that for those of you who are welfare officers, you're not counsellors. We're not asking you to have therapy sessions with your members. We're not asking you to solve their problems. We're just asking you to be someone that people can talk to, and someone that can signpost people to the right places across campus, or across kind of the surrounding area, or even sort of local charities that are nationwide, or global even, that you can direct people put people in the direction of. Yeah, so as I said in the second point, being that kind of person to talk to is often, it's a lot to take on for just one person to do. So although you might be the only person in a welfare officer role, it's important that the rest of your exec team check in on you. So if you're not a welfare officer, make sure that you are regularly checking in on your welfare officer to make sure that they're okay and make sure that they're not taking on too much. You have to support them wherever you can. They'll most likely be close friends within your society or your club. So it's really important to distance yourself from any issue that involves conflict, where your friend is involved. So you can ask a separate exec member that is impartial to it to step in. Otherwise, there's going to be something in there that is probably going to be biased, even though you don't realise you're being biased. That is, it's likely to happen. So again, there's another link on there that you can click, which is a house rules template that we've created. This basically is a blank document that has got certain rules in already, but then things that you can adapt for certain situations that can help to remove the potential threat of things happening, or it can help for you to give so that you've got a system to penalise or give strikes essentially if things do go wrong. So you can create these house rules for anything that you want. So you can create one that is for your social media conduct, which will see you through the whole year, or that you can kind of update and amend as you want. You can also have things for specific events, especially if the event that you're having has got the potential to be a little bit maybe controversial or a bit provocative, because some just are by nature. Such as like debate sessions, or maybe things that involve like political matters. They always have the potential to become a little bit heated. So it's good to have house rules in place that you can follow, and that you can let your members know that these are in place. So these things need to be followed. And that, you know, if anyone makes a mistake, you've got like a 3-strike rule that you can implement, that kind of thing. Yep. Any house rules that you create must be agreed by all exec members. That has to be unanimous, and they always must be published to your members. And I'll talk a little bit more about the ways that you can publish to your members in a bit. So just a few more things about welfare. Again, at the bottom, there's a link to last year's welfare training, and this may again be changed when we do it in September, but the majority of it is likely to remain the same. But there's a few links there to things that are on campus or kind of universally known that are good services that can offer support to people. So we've got SU Advice, obviously, on campus, Swiss student support, Nightline, the information help desk, but then there's also like a link on there to like Samaritans, which most of you should hopefully be familiar with, but it's like an impartial kind of confidential service that you can ring and talk to, you know, talk to someone that you don't know about any problems that you might be having, and they're just going to be a voice to listen to, essentially. So yeah, familiarize yourself with those services, and that should be for everyone, not just the welfare officer, really, because again, the welfare officer might need to, you know, go home for an emergency for 2 weeks, and then someone's got to step into that role. Yeah. So website functions. So on the 31st of July, all of your club and society memberships will expire. So you'll need to get a new one on the 1st of August before that we can apply admin rights so that you can start using certain functions on your website. As of Monday, the 2nd of August, when we're back in the office, we will be, or when we're back on, in our office, whatever it is that we're doing, we'll be manually going through all exec members and applying admin rights to those that have bought your society or your club membership. So if you want yours fast, make sure to buy your membership on the 1st of August. We're going to be trying and doing a few of those ahead of time as well. And any changes that you do want to make on your website, you can send them through. I know that we had some from the dance club earlier, which we'll be doing over today and tomorrow. So if you want any changes made immediately, then just send them through to us. So send the text through that you want to be put on your website, or pictures that you want uploading, that kind of thing. Send them through to us and we can get them done ahead of the 1st of August as well. If you have requested a price change to your membership, that's for societies only at this point. Please don't buy one until you see that price reflected on the web page. Again, we're going to be trying and doing some of those a little bit earlier. And again, like if you were to buy one now, we can extend the membership to go until the 31st of July next year, because obviously we don't want you to just buy a membership now for say £5, then it only lasts for the last 10 days of July. So if you do happen to do that, then please just let us know and we can extend your membership rather than like refund it and then have you buy it again. So actually on your websites, I've used the anime and manga page here for just a reference. But once you've been applied admin right, once you've had admin rights applied to your profile, you should be able to click in the top right hand corner on the bit that says page admin, and there should be something that comes up which says anime and manga admin tools, or it'll be your club or your society name and then admin tools. So you need to click there, and then what will come up is a list of options which look as I've put the picture there. So there's loads of different functions you can do there. So number one, edit your web page, so edit details. So that will take you to where it will bring up all the content that you've got on your web page, and you can edit that stuff. Number two, events. So if you've got an event that your society or your club is putting on, you can use that button there to then put all your details of your event in, and then that'll appear on your page, and that'll appear on like the what's on page that we have got created for clubs and societies. Messages, it's a really handy one. So if you click on there, then you can send messages out to all of your like paid club or society members. So it's a really good place to just contact everyone in one go rather than doing things all through like social media, which isn't a bad thing to do, but it just basically gives you more routes to be able to contact all of your members. So there's different things in there. So like obviously members, you can just see who are your members. But like number four, sales reports. So if you are hosting an event and you have made tickets available, which you have to ask us for, we can put tickets online for you. You could use that for someone standing at the door to make sure that those who are trying to gain access to your event have bought a ticket. You can look at sales reports and reference, cross check people off lists and whatnot. And then resources is a really important one. So things like your minutes that you take in meetings, they should be uploaded onto your website, and you can do that by clicking on the resources bit there and then uploading a document through that, so that when you go on your page, they should be available to see for all your members. Obviously, if there's any errors with that, as this is an external company basically we use to run the websites, and often there are things that can go wrong with this website. It's a really annoying issue that I've been trying to fix all the time, but there's almost always something that comes up. So if there is ever an issue with it, then please do just get in touch and we can try and fix that for you. Events. So we've been informed by the university that as of 6th of September, you'll be able to book teaching rooms again on campus. So that, again, like I said, it's dependent on any government or university COVID guidelines. If they remain the same as they are right now, then obviously you'll be able to book rooms. But that could change, and as soon as things change, then we'll let you know straight away. So always be checking on your emails for any updates we've got. So at least 5 working days are required to process a room booking form. They can only be booked for societies and clubs after 6 p.m. Unless there's an exceptional reason. If you do need the room before 6 p.m, then as I said, there's a little box on the form that says summarize your event details, and then it goes on a little bit more, but you'll see the box where you should add your reason as to why you need the room at that time. So there can be numerous reasons maybe, and it could be something like maybe a student parent needs an event earlier during the day because they can't get childcare for the evening. So something like that, for example, might be a reason you put in there as to why you need to have the room earlier. Before you can hold any event, you've got to complete a risk assessment. They're really boring, but they must be done. So basically we sponsor room booking. So as soon as we're happy with a room booking, we click a button to say that we sponsor it, and then the university department that does that will then allocate you a room and get back to you. But we can't sponsor that room booking until we've got your risk assessment. So make sure to email that to us before or even at the same time as you submit your room booking request. The risk assessment template that includes the COVID risks that we've got in there is available to download through that link as well. And I just realised I forgot to add the link in for the room booking, but you can just find it by typing in onto Google University of Essex student room booking. You can do that. And then it's also the resources page that we've got. The link will be going back on there soon again. So you can just click a button on the exec member resources page, and it'll take you through to the page to make a room booking. When you download the risk assessment template, you will need to make amendments to it. So right at the bottom of all the different boxes, it will say add your risks in, or something like that. I can't remember the exact wording, but you've basically got to add in like the title and the date, add, like, basically change all those things at the top, and then add your risks in at the bottom. By sending in the risk assessment to us, you'll be agreeing to all of our pre-written COVID guidelines that are on there. So make sure that you read all of those really thoroughly to make sure that your event is going to comply with the rules on them. Obviously, the rules are being relaxed all the time at the moment. So, as of the time of the 6th of September, that form will have changed, I'd imagine, because we might not need to include as strict rules, or we might need to include stricter rules. It basically depends on what the university tells us that we need to be doing. So yeah, basically when it comes to making room booking requests again, just make sure that you have a thorough read through them again, so that you know that what you are agreeing to essentially. So we usually need a couple of days to correspond with you about risk assessments. We're aware that you guys haven't maybe done training on things like how to do risk assessments, so we know that they're not going to come through probably as they need to be approved. So we'll look at what you've done and then just make some changes and then send them back to you and ask you whether you agree to them, etc. So just basically extend that 5 working days that the uni ask you for. We ask you just to extend that to 7, so that we've got a couple of days to check through those risk assessments and make the amendments and get you to agree with them as well. For reoccurring events, so I've put the example there of an origami workshop. You can submit the same approved risk assessment to us each week, or when you submit the first one, you can submit it with the date section to include the weekly sessions basically that you're planning to have. We're not asking you to do a brand new risk assessment for every week for the same event basically. So yeah, you can just do that. So for clubs, obviously you've got your pre-arranged sessions, so like your competitions or your weekly matches, your fixtures, or your training sessions, and you will have gone through, or at least the previous exec will have gone through extensive back and forths with us to make sure that you've got all the right risk assessments, obviously in cooperation as well with Essex Sport a lot of the time. So just make sure that you are always following whatever is your current risk assessment, whatever is your approved risk assessment, and any other forms that you've gone through to make sure that your events are safe and can run again. Make sure you're always following them. If you're not sure what those forms are, if the previous exec members haven't sent them on to you, just get in touch with us and we'll send them across to you. But you've got to make sure that you're always following the current the most current approved risk assessment and other documents that have been agreed on. For any other events that you hold as a society or club, again, I'll repeat all this again in the COVID updates. but you've got to make sure that you are taking a register of those that enter the event room or enter your that play in your competition or whatever it might be. You've got to take a register. It can be on paper and then transferred to a device, but ideally just take the register on a device straight away. Any paper copies must be securely held. Please do not lose them for GDPR reasons, obviously. And then upload them, so type them up onto a device as soon as you can. And as soon as you've done it, just destroy that piece of paper. So just rip it up and just chuck it straight in a bin and make sure that is gone. The register should contain people's names and Essex email addresses, as well as details. So for example, if you're doing things that involve like bubbles still, so if you've got 12 people and you split into 2 bubbles, keep a track on who's in which bubble, etc. This is just so that you know who you need to let know that they need to isolate, for example, if someone in their bubble gets a COVID positive test. So the register should be kept with a COVID officer or whoever is acting as your COVID officer, and that should be on a password protected document. That register has got to be sent to us as well, because we and you have a joint responsibility, like I said, to make sure people that might need to isolate get told. So that has to be sent to us. But please set up that password protection after you've sent it to us. Otherwise, we probably won't be able to access the document unless you also let us know the password. So the best thing to do is just to send it to us, then set up your password protection, and then you can deal with that, and then we can set up our own password protection as well. Any registers, they must be kept for a maximum of 21 days, and then they must be deleted. Cannot stress the importance of that enough. If we are found in any kind of breach of GDPR regulations, there could be huge fines. So please make sure that anything that you're keeping is password protected and then deleted as soon as you don't need them, or as or in the 21 days time frame. You also must remind those that attend your event of the responsibility that they have to inform you if they record a positive test. They might just forget that they've, hopefully you'd think that they wouldn't forget that they've been to a club of, they've played in a football match, or that they've been to a dance workshop, or whatever it might be. But at the start of your events, basically just do a call out, or just whatever it might be, just to say, please remember that if you do a positive test in the coming days, you have to let us know, so that you can then go ahead and let the right people know that they need to isolate, or whatever the rules are in place. Because obviously, like I said, I know they're always changing. It's very confusing, but we'll just obviously let you know of any guidance that we've got, and clarify anything that we've got as soon as we get the information. In terms of software to use a register, you can just use a Word document. It doesn't have to be anything sophisticated. It just needs to be something where you can keep a list of names and email addresses, so that you know who to contact and how to contact them, and then just password protect them. Yeah, just as simple as that, really. So risk assessments. So I apologize that this is quite small writing. Hopefully it's okay to read. So number 1 is the hazard. So make sure to always list the 3 components. I know this isn't always done, but this was done on the training that I not recently, about a year ago now, had to take. No longer than that. Sorry, that's a complete tangent. But it makes it really clear if you just type out the hazardous event and the consequence. So in this case, it is like wires. That is what the hazard is. The hazardous event would be someone tripping over the wires, and the consequence would be injuries such as cuts, bruises, or potentially breaking bones. Number 2, so as I said, in most cases, it will usually be anyone in attendance, but there might be some specific instances where it only affects a certain group of people, like the idea that it might be a band that are coming to your event, and they are going to be the only ones that will be using or going near the musical equipment, so they would only be affected in that case, for example. Number 3 says what the current control is, basically what do you currently have in place or have planned to minimize the risk. So in this case, you'd plan that the wires would be taped down to the floor. It's a really simple thing you can do. And the current risk, so you can see the chart right up there in the top right corner. So you have to basically do the current risk. So it's the likelihood of the hazardous event times the consequence. So in this case, unlikely times moderate equals low. So that would be what your current risk is for that situation. basically what the second half of the risk assessment there is then is about reducing the risk even further. So in this, there would be, you might do a pre-event announcement to inform people of potential health and safety risks involved in your event, including something in this case about the wires. So it would, even just letting people know that there are wires down in this area, so please be careful, that instantly minimizes the risk. People might forget, but they are more likely to be aware of that risk. And then you could even go one step further and put a barrier there in place to cordon off the wires. So yeah, that would change it to very unlikely, but the risk will remain the same, because if they do fall on it, then they could still get an injury such as a cut, a bruise, or breaking a bone maybe. So you're looking to basically push the likelihood up to the left-hand side. So you want to get as close or onto the very unlikely side of things. So in that case, the risk does change to very unlikely, which is perfect. It's what you want. It's gone from low. Sorry, I've even done that wrong there. It's gone to low. It should go to very low, not very unlikely. Sorry. The target date will be when you plan to have the risk managed by. So, for example, if the risk is food, then you may list the target date as the day before the event, as you'll be probably cooking the event then. And then you'll also be managing the risks, so like allergens, so as a way to ensuring that no cross-contamination happens, and labeling the food as well. And then number 8, the last bit, is the date achieved. So it could end up being before the target date. So if you forward planned your event really, really well, and for example, you've set up the event in like a day before, like you've had access to the room that you're holding the event in the day before, then it might even be you might even be achieving it before the event, which is really great. But it will more than likely just be the date of your event, because it's hard to do to manage a lot of risks before the actual day of your event, really. Bit of a morbid one, but if a risk has a potential consequence of death, it must be listed as catastrophic. That's just a flat rule. That is what it is. It doesn't mean your event can't go ahead. So don't ever not include a risk that could result in death just because you think, oh, we're going to look at it, we're going to take one look and reject it. That's not the case. Risk assessments are just basically done to put in place everything possible to make sure that the event is safe. So we've had a lot of fireworks events with societies before. So that's like an example of something that could definitely end in death if someone doesn't handle fireworks properly. But we put in the risks, we put in the protocols to make sure that no one does die. So anything that could involve fire, for example, as well, that has to have catastrophic in. It's just the nature of what a risk assessment is. But don't hold back on putting those things on there. It doesn't mean we're going to reject your event. And you must have an email from one of us in the student activities team to confirm that your risk assessment has been accepted. If you haven't received that email, then it might be that something else has come up and we didn't send the email. So just again, like, email us and just ask us, is there any update on it? But it might be that we're also still working on it and still in certain conversations with like our own health and safety team or the university's health and safety team. If it hasn't been accepted, then your event just can't go ahead. Simple as that, basically. Onto some really fun stuff, which I'm sure, like I said, you're going to be thrilled to hear about. That word COVID. So at the moment, government guidelines are continuing to be relaxed and removed. So that means that less restrictions are going to be present on campus. But however, the SU is always guided at the moment by the university, and they can impose their own rules on how things run on campus. So that'll also determine which other activity can take place. The university is privately owned land, so it means that we have to follow the rules that they set out, essentially. So although a 5,000 strong person event could take place, the university still reserve the right to refuse us to do that. They normally work with us to look at ways that they can make anything possible go ahead. We have a very good relationship with the university, but at the end of the day, just because something can happen doesn't mean it always will happen. So please bear that in mind. Like I said, we're always making sure that we're representing you in what you want to do and doing our best to make sure that you can do what you plan. Any other changes that do come, they'll be in the more in-depth training in September. So, obviously make sure you attend certain events, certain trainings, such as the event training when it happens, where we'll give more general guidance on events, but especially on things like COVID and what the situation is. Anything that affects you really immediately, though, obviously we'll let you know straight away. So whether that be, like I said, on there, booking a teaching room, or whether it be you've got an event that is planned on the squares before September, which obviously you can do at the moment. If that then changes and you can't do that, we'll let you know that straight away. If you're meeting up off campus as a society or club, so that something that you have actually branded as being a society or club event, then make sure that you're following any government guidance that's in place. Like I said, I know that it's very sort of relaxed at the moment, but things can change very quickly, as we've seen over the last sort of 18 months. And just remember that you're, just remain vigilant with things like personal space and hygiene. So, for example, things like masks, the rules are relaxed at the moment, but just make sure that your members feel safe. Make sure that your members know that they can wear masks if they want to. Make sure there's no judgment around wearing masks. I know that a lot of people are feeling anxious about that at the moment, about going into a shop and getting looks off people that don't want to wear masks. That's how people feel. But basically, whatever way you feel about masks at the moment, just make sure that you're respecting each other's boundaries, and basically making events as much of a safe space as you can for your members. Clubs, just again, another quick reminder, but make sure that you're adhering to any approved risk assessments or any documents that you've got in place for your training, your competition, your fixtures, etc. And then just general again, for both sets, for clubs and societies, for your general events that you're holding, make sure that if you're really stuck on the initial phase of putting together your risk assessments, or you don't understand something about any COVID things that are in place, just get in touch with us. We're always here to chat things through. We can always have a quick Zoom chat about the initial stages of setting things up. So just get in contact with us. We're almost at the end. I'm sorry if I've waffled on, but some other quick updates that we have. So there'll be more in-depth training sessions in September. So there'll be things like some more information about social media and how to use it, or your website functions, some more information about events, some more in-depth things about finance. That will be all in September. This session was just aimed at giving you some of the kind of really key bits of information that you need to hit the ground running as of the 1st of August, when you officially start. Any details that we have about those training sessions, we're hoping to finalise them either tomorrow, or if not in the early stages of August. So make sure to keep an eye on your emails for when we send out the details of those. Make sure to be active on your social media on the 10th of August. That's A-level results day. So there is a lot of people, a lot of incoming Essex students, or even students that may go through clearing in the end and come to Essex. They're going to be looking at things to do. They're going to be looking at our Find a Society or Find a Club page to see what's on offer. And from them, they'll then go over to your Instagram page or your Twitter or whatever you've got. So make sure that they are all up to date. Make sure that they're all looking good, to make sure that you're active on your pages that day. So yeah, one thing that we got from this year was that you wanted to know about some of the plans that we have that are coming up just earlier on in advance, which is totally fair. So we're looking to kind of create some sort of student activities calendar. We at the moment, we're sort of putting these things like we have done with this in your Outlook calendar, but it might also be something that we make into like a graphic on the website. We don't quite know yet for sure what we're doing, but we're going to be putting together something or multiple things for that. But this is also an opportunity to let you know, for you to let us know of things that you want us to put in that calendar as well. So a couple of examples on there. So like International Women's Day, National Origami Day, National Gardening Day, whatever it might be, just let us know things that you want us to put in that as well, because it might be that you're planning a big event for that, something like that. So that includes Freshers Fair, like I said. So as you know, about Freshers Fair, so this is going to be scheduled to take place again in the multi-deck car park. For those of you who didn't attend last year or don't know where that is, that's behind the sports, like the gyms or the sports facilities. It's the big car park there. Hopefully will be on Saturday, October 9th. So you'll all be allocated a stall. but we will be in touch at a later date to confirm with you if your club or your society is attending or not. But don't worry about, don't panic about not having a stall. You will all be allocated a stall, so that's something to remember. And we'll also get out all the relevant information later on, over an email to you at a later point. It may even be that we hold a quick hour session over Zoom where we give you all the important information that you need to know about how that's going to work. We are looking at just a one day this year. So last year, obviously, we'd had the Saturday and the Sunday, but at the moment it is looking likely that we'll just do the one day. But yeah, as it's in the multi-deck car park, it means that, if there's rain, everyone's all good for that. So it means that no event will ever won't get cancelled or something. We only need it to be the one day this year. So we just sort of saying on that, really just start thinking about how you can make your stalls look good, and just consider kind of all scenarios, because like I said with the COVID stuff before, we all know how quickly things can change. So make sure to include ideas, to be thinking about ideas for a distance, like a non-contact stall like last year was, where you couldn't give your members or your potential members things to take away with them. Maybe get QR codes created that send people to your Instagram page or send people to your Essex student website, things like that, as well as also obviously thinking about things that you can do with a contact stall, or where you don't have to socially distance, because that would be great, that would be lovely. But we just are asking you just to think about all possibilities, so that your members don't miss out and that you've got nothing planned as of the day. We're also looking to hold some things like some banner making workshops that can be really helpful for making your stalls look good. So we're hoping to do that sometime over summer. So again, look out on your emails for details of that too, if that's something that might interest you. And the last thing I believe, is a little link there to the Facebook page, which is for student activities leaders. So that includes all the exec members from yourselves, of clubs, the societies, but we've also got V-Team on there as well, things like Rebel, and we have all us as staff members are on there as well. So that'll be another place where we'll give you certain updates about things, or you can ask questions to sort of other exec members, where you might be able to get an answer quicker than on an email. So yeah, basically click that link, request to join that if you're not on it already, and we'll accept you, and then you can basically do what you want on that page in terms of getting information and waiting for updates and stuff like that. Yeah, so thank you for joining today. I don't know if